Jake. Whatever. So tomorrow's here, and like he said, Bump went to see if his hallucination from yesterday was real. The other three of us went straight to the hideout to wait for him first thing this morning. When he finally showed up, we were all over him. Did you find out, Bump? Is it real, Bump? What is it? Today, Bump was back to his own cool self. He sat on the ground, took out a piece of black licorice, and started chewing. It felt funny standing over him like that, but the rest of us were too excited to sit. Bump, come on, we begged. Bump smiled up at us. It was a face of complete satisfaction, the kind of face you get when the world lays a perfect moment on you, with everything you ever wanted in life suddenly flopped into your lap. I'll probably look when I get my first cell phone. I'll probably look when I get my first cell phone. And suddenly I knew why. Bump, I said. You saw the best goober yet, didn't you? Bump looked up at me but still didn't say a word. He looked around and on the ground. Then he held out his hand and said, Stick. Nacho ducked out and came back with a stick. He handed it to Bump. Bump waved us away. We stepped back. He grinned up at us and used the stick to write a word in the dirt. They were big, blocky letters like a first grader's. We were not as good as teachers at reading upside down, so we all walked around Bump and stood behind him and looked down at the word. Nobody said anything except, Oh man, which came from Burke. We just stood there staring, as if the word was the thing itself, and if we dared to breathe, it might disappear. And this was the word Super Goober. Lily. He says, Twins, twins. You're always playing the twins card. Why don't you get off of it? I say it's the only card I have left. You won't even play poker with me anymore. Jake. Super Goobers are rare, like two-headed frogs. You're lucky if you spot one in a lifetime. Most regular goobers have one or two funny things about them. Sometimes a goober can be sitting in class with you or walking the halls every day, and you don't even know it until he goes goobery and gives himself away. This is where it's good to have somebody like Bump, who can root them when they're not obvious. With a super goober, you know instantly. There's nothing that is not funny about a super goober. The day you see a super goober is the day you'll remember for the rest of your life. You'll memorize the date, like your birthday or your favorite holiday. For me, July 2nd will always be Super Goober Day. His house was at the end of Meeker Street, so it had a side yard. That's where he was hammering. We sat on our bikes and watched him from across the street. For some strange reason, until you get to know a goober, you're scared to get too close. There was a tree. He was hammering boards under it. Even from across the street, we could tell he was only hitting a nail about 1 out of every 10 times. He didn't hammer with his arm, he hammered with his whole body, his joints flying in all different directions. Some kids you can tell just by the way they walk or run that they're not athletes. This kid made a robot look graceful. Once he not only missed the nail, he missed the board. Burke said, Can't wait to see him in gym class. Nacho said, Who is he? You mean, what is it? I said. We laughed. Nacho said, You think his mother made him? We all knew what Nacho was talking about. The kid was wearing goggles and gloves. Yeah, probably, said Bert. He mimicked a mom. You'll get flying splinters. Protect your eyes and hands. Okay, I said, but any normal kid? I didn't have to finish the sentence. Would take off the goggles and gloves as soon as he got out of the house. Then Bump said, But, he paused. We turned. He had a little grin. Maybe his mother didn't make him. 4 heads turned to the kid. Burke whispered, Holy crap. We just stood there for a while, leaning in our bike seats, soaking in the amazement of a human being who would wear goggles and gloves without being told, in July. At first we thought he was bald. Burke drifted across the street for a closer look and came back. His hair is blonde, and it's cut real short. While we were thinking about that, Burke said, That's not all. What? We said. There's something on his shirt. What? Mickey Mouse. What? Mickey Mouse. He has a Mickey Mouse patch on his shirt. We lost it. We all burst out laughing. I didn't even think Mickey Mouse was cool when I was 3. Bum shouted, plenty loud enough for the kid to hear, but the kid just went on hammering. The tip of his tongue was sticking out between his lips. Super goobers are great concentrators. And then he did something that sent him straight to the Goober Hall of Fame. He took a handkerchief out of his pocket, wiped his sweaty face with it, and put it back in his pocket. We had all heard of handkerchiefs. Burke said he saw one in a movie once. I remember seeing an old man in an elevator blow his nose into one a couple years ago. We stood there just gawking. You suck on a goober's amazement like you suck on candy goop from a tube. We'll never know where things might have gone from there because at that moment a single door swung open and a lady's voice called, Ernie, lunch! And the kid, super goobers always listen to their mothers, dropped his hammer and ran into the house. Lily, he's back! Poppy, forever! It started with our parents fooling us. At breakfast this morning, Dad said, We're taking you to the house. He meant the house they've been working on since spring. We want to see if you like what we did to it. Okay, we said. We were impressed. They never asked our opinion before. Must mean we're practically grown up. So we get in the car and we drive to the house and pull into the driveway. It's a little white stucco cottage with red trim and a gray roof and a porch big enough for 2 chairs. Jake and I are looking it over and saying stuff like, Good work, nice paint job. Mom says, We have one big problem. You know, Dad and me, we're not musical. We don't know if we got the door chimes right. Would you mind going up and ringing the doorbell and see what you think of the sound? We bolted from the car, and of course I was first at the door. I pressed the button. We could hear the chimes inside. We both called back, Sounds good. Then the door opened. It was Poppy. Jake and I were in a howling laughter sandwich, Poppy in front of us, parents behind. Everybody piled into the house, and pretty quick we got the story. Poppy didn't just come for a visit last winter. He and Mom had planned the whole thing. Poppy bought the old handyman special with money he'd been saving, and Mom and Dad did the work for nothing. I glared at Poppy. You tricked us. You knew all along you were coming back. I punched him for making me cry back then, and he just laughed and swallowed Jake and me in a bear hug. Jake. I stayed with him all morning. I stayed while we all had lunch in Poppy's new house. We ordered pizza. There's nothing in the fridge yet. And then I got up to leave and Lily squawked, There he goes! Scrap it, I said. Did you see he only ate one slice of pizza? He usually eats 4. He can't wait to get out of here. I had my hand on the doorknob. He hates me, Poppy. I should have left right then. I knew better. I knew she was just getting started. The grown-ups were chuckling. I don't think he hates you, said Dad. Lily plowed on. He doesn't go riding with me anymore. We don't play cards. We don't sleep in the same room anymore. We don't do squat together. Dad got a kick out of that one. Lily threw her pizza down. Yeah, laugh. She glared at them. You don't know what it's like to be entangled with somebody. Boy, I'm sorry. Am I sorry Poppy ever told us we're entangled? And then that somebody dumps you and you've left all alone with nothing to do but pick your nose. My parents' checks were bulging right to hold in the laughs. Cheeks were bulging trying to hold in the laughs. Poppy looked at her like she was making sense. She jabbed a finger at me. Look at him. He's drooling to get away. His grandfather just came here to live, and all he wants to do is go kiss Bump Stubbins. They might as well get married since they spend all their time together. I'm surprised he still comes here home to sleep. She gave her mouth a rest for a second. Mom said, Jake loves you, Lily. Lily snickered. Yeah, sure. Then as I opened the door, her question sparred me. Is that right, Jake? You love me? I looked at my parents, my grandfather. I pointed to my head. She's cuckoo, I said. I went out the door. Lily. See? I said, see? Nobody said anything. They just stared at me. Mom and Dad actually had little grins, which made no sense. Me? I was feeling great. Why not? I was right for 2 seconds. Then I started bawling. Jake. Meeker Street. They were at the curb, same as yesterday. Where were you? Said Bump. We went to your house and knocked. At my grandpa's, they said. He just came to live here. I looked across the street. Where is he? In for lunch, said Burke. So what's happening? Same old, said Bump. He's hammering away. Still don't know we're here. He shook his head. Unfreaking believable. In his own little world, said Nacho. That's how they are, said Bump. It's true. Goobers live in their own little world. Planet Goober. They don't seem to notice anything else. If the whole rest of the world is wearing black shoes and they're the only ones on the planet wearing yellow shoes, they won't even notice or care. And that leads to another thing about goobers, probably the mainest thing of all. Goobers don't know they're goobers. They just skip happily along through life thinking they're perfectly normal. Just then Soup, that's what we call him now, came back outside and for the first time in 2 days looked across the street and noticed us. He had a glass of something in his hand. He called, Hi guys! Held up the glass. Want some lemonade? Our knees buckled. Burke let out one quick snort bomb, but the rest of us did a pretty good job of swallowing the laughs, for a good reason. When a goober says something totally hilarious, you naturally want to bust out laughing. But if you're smart, you make sure to hold it in and keep paying attention, because while you're busy laughing, you might miss the next gem that comes along. And here's another rule. Act like they're normal. If you don't, If you explode a volcano of laugh lava like you feel like doing, you might spook them. You might cause them to see themselves the way you do. The last thing you want is for a goober to all of a sudden look in the mirror and one day say, "Well, what do you know? I'm a goober." Of course, that's probably not going to happen. But still, you don't want to take chances. Super goobers are too rare. You don't want to risk losing them. So you keep your face straight and act normal. Even though the kid just across the street to perfect strangers, hi guy. Even though the kid just called across the street to perfect strangers, hi guys, want some lemonade? And was wearing an orange hat. Orange. Yeah, that takes a lot of discipline. So Nacho answered, "Hi, Soup." I cringed, but the kid didn't even notice the soup. And Bump said, "No thanks, we're just sitting here watching. What you making?" The kid beamed, "A clubhouse." He took a swig of his lemonade. He beamed again. "Hey guys, want to be in the club?" Bump rolled across the street. The rest of us followed but hung back. Let the master work. "What club?" said Bump. "My club," said the kid. "What's it called?" said Bump. "I don't know yet," said the kid. "Maybe you guys can help me pick a name." "Who's in the club now?" said Bump. The kid threw his arms out. "Me!" He struck out his hand. "I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Ernest, but you can call me Ernie." They shook. "You can call me Bump." He pointed to each of us. "And you can call him Burke, and there's Nacho, and that's Jake." And of course, Ernie couldn't let go at that. He had to shake hands with each of us and say, "Nice to meet you." So Ernie, Bump went on, "If we joined up, then there would be 5 of us. From what I can see, Ernie," he pretended to study the woody mess, "it doesn't look like it would be big enough." "No problemo," said Ernie. Again, the arms flew out. "I'll make it bigger." "Wow," said Bump, acting impressed. "Really?" "Sure, I can make it as big as I want. My dad will get me more wood. Look." He held up a yellow plastic bucket, like a little kid would take to the beach. "I have enough nails to make a skyscraper," he laughed. "Wow, Ernie," said Bump, "you're really something." Bump turned to us. "What do you think, fellas? Do you think we ought to join Ernie's club?" You had to see Bump's face. It was as serious as if he was answering a question in English class, which only made the whole thing funnier. It was too much for Nacho. He pedaled off up the street, gagging on his own laughs. For me, I understood exactly what was going on. It's one thing to observe a goober, it's totally something else to interact with one. The key is to interact with the goober so he doesn't suspect anything fishy is going on, which, with goobers, it's easy because they're so gullible and agreeable. So you act all serious and string them along. You don't just nod and say, "Yep, that's nice." You give them a nudge. You steer them in a direction that will bring out their gooberness in all its glory. I knew that's what Bump was doing. So I spoke up. "Sure, Bump, sounds like a good idea." I rolled my bike alongside his. "Let's join up." "Yeah," said Bert, coasting over. "Let's do it." Soup let out a little yelp cheer. "Yes!" He did something that he probably thought was a happy dance, but actually looked like somebody fighting off a swarm of bees. When he finally calmed down, he said, "So, guys, care to help? We could consolidate our efforts. I can find some more hammers." Care to help? Consolidate our efforts? This guy was getting better by the minute. "Ah, sorry, Ernie," said Bump, as he really sounded sorry. "If we consolidate, we'd consolidate if we could, but we all have blisters on our hands, and our doctor told us no hammering for a month." Burke started choke laughing. He headed off to join Nacho. "Oh, okay," said the kid. "No problemo, senores." Senors. Goobers believe everything you tell them. "So you go ahead and hammer away," said Bump. "We'll just hang here and watch you for a while if you don't mind." "Heck no, I don't mind," Kid chirped and dived right back into Planet Goober. He put on his goggles, put on his gloves, and started pounding away. "Lily, don't worry. He loves you," they said. "He had an audience," they said. "He was uncomfortable. He's being a boy," they said. Okay, I figured. With the audience, he wasn't himself. Give him a second chance. Maybe a boy isn't so much a boy when you catch him in his room. I waited till after dark. He was on his back. He was on his back on his bed, reading an X-Men comic. I had hardly stepped into the room when he said, "What?" Actually, he didn't say it. He snarled it. Practically spit it. What's the use, I figured. I went back to my room. I stood before the poster on my wall. It shows a California Zephyr from the 1950s, way before we were born. 2 engines pulling, silver with red faces and red stripes down the sides. Sleepers, coaches, dining car, sightseeing dome car. I counted 13 cars in all, crossing the empty, endless, grateless salt flats somewhere in Utah. We were there, Jake and me, right there, crossing the flats just like the passengers behind the black windows in the poster. The sway of the train, the click of the wheels. I got a chill. Jake. Super goobers are like hot peppers, or staring at the sun. You can't take too much at once. So we busted back to the hideout and spent the rest of the day hooting and replaying every moment. We were sitting in a circle. Care to help? Consolidate our efforts? Hi, guys. Want some lemonade? Hi, Soup. I can't believe you said that. He never noticed. Wow, Ernie, you're really something. That was awesome, Bump. How'd you keep a straight face? We can't help. We got blisters. We laughed so hard our stomach hurt. Then questions came. How did he get that way? He was born that way. Don't parents have something to do with it? Every goober I knew, their parents were perfectly normal. What if a goober has a brother or sister? Would they be goobers too? Would they be super goobers too? I got a cousin who's a goober. Some days he's even a super goober. This was Bump talking. We were all ears. He has two sisters, my girl cousins, and they're normal. I mean, for girls. So, said Nacho, there's 5 people in the family and only one is a goober? Right, said Bump. So, said Burke, giving Bump the sly eye, so there's a goober in your family? Bump stared at Burke. Yeah. You got a problem? Me? Said Burke. No, I ain't got no problem. So I do? Asked Bump. Hey, you said it, not me. There's a goober in your family. Nacho poked Burke. So what are you saying? Burke shrugged. I'm saying, ever hear of genes? Nacho's brain couldn't take it. Huh? Personally, I was getting a kick out of all of this. I spoke up. Burke says maybe gooberism runs in a family. Even though Bump isn't a goober, maybe he's got a little bit of goober blood in him. Suddenly, I was in the dirt. Bump had stuck his foot in my back and pushed me over. I caught up laughing, but I was the only one. Bump looked like he wanted to jab a stick down my throat. Doesn't run in the family, he said. Cool, I said, sitting back up. Tell Burke. He's the one who said genes. Look at him. I pointed. Look at his face. He can't stop grinning. He's juking you, man. Chill out. I poked Jump. Take a joke, dude. Nacho got us back on track. He made goggle circles over his eyes with Google. Sorry, I can read. Google circles over his eyes with fingers and chirping, no problemo, senor. We picked up our laughing where we left off. Lily, why? I must have said that word 1,000 times this week, and I'm still waiting for an answer from Poppy. Oh, he's given me answers to a lot of little whys, like why does Jake need his own room? Because your parents said so. Why? Because you're getting older. What does that have to do with it? Maybe Jake shouldn't be getting undressed in front of you. I won't look. He's a boy and you're a girl. No, we're not. Oops, my mistake. It was the day after Jake walked out. We were sitting on Poppy's living room floor. There was no furniture yet. We were playing poker. Our money was dried beetles. Poppy collected from around the world. It's the only thing he has a lot of. Poppy, I said, you know what I mean. You're missing the point. We're not a regular boy and girl. We're brother and sister, and we're not a regular brother and sister. We're twins, and we're not even regular twins. We're special. I squeezed his finger. You know what I mean, Poppy? You're the only other person who totally knows. He smiled, nodded, patted my hand. I know. Raise you one beetle. You know about the snow fort and the bruises. You know about the day at the beach. You know about our birthday in the train station. You know about Goombla. He patted. I know. So I said, so what? So why? Why what? Why everything? Why won't Jake ride and play with me anymore or even hardly talk to me? Why did he change? Why is he so different now? Where did our Goombla go? Raise your 2 beetles and call you. That's a lot of whys and one where. So give me a lot of answers. How about I give you one? One answer fits all. Give it. He's a boy. 3 jacks. Bull, I said. 4 queens. I took the pot. He shrugged. He got up. Let's go shopping. I need furniture. Poppy, you have to have an answer. You're old. Old people have the answers. Ask me tomorrow, he said. Maybe I'll have a better answer then. So we went to Goodwill and got him some furniture, and he got a second-hand bike till he can afford his own car. And he looked for a job. I went with him the next day and the next, and every day, as soon as he opened the front door, I said, why? And every day he said, he's a boy. Until today when he said, maybe you're asking the wrong question. I got excited. What's the right question? I don't know, he said. I pounded his chest and buried my face in his shirt and pretended I was bawling, but part of me wasn't pretending.